Okay. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good morning again, and welcome to the ninth session of the Committee on Environment and Development. As you join the conference room, you may proceed to your designated seats. The program will begin shortly. Okay. Excellencies, we're about to begin the opening ceremony of the ninth session of the Committee on Environment and Development. May I kindly request all delegates to proceed to their seats. Kindly note that simultaneous interpretation of the proceedings is provided in 4 official languages of the United Nations used by ESCAP. For the purpose of facilitating communication, this event will also be webcast on ESCAP's YouTube channels in all 4 official languages of ESCAP. Okay, good. Excellencies, please join me in welcoming our special guests now entering the room. Ms. Tarika Sarayungate, Advisor to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment of Thailand. Mr. Lee Junghua, United Nations Under-Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs. Ms. Armida Salcia Azjavana, Under-Secretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of ESCAP. Ms. Ling Yan, Deputy Executive Secretary for Program of ESCAP. And youth representatives, Ms. Cherry Lee, co-founder, Do It Does Food, and Mr. Nguyen Dang Dao, co-founder and co-president of Young Governesses of Southeast Asia. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, may I now request Ms. Lin Yang, Deputy Executive Secretary for Program of ESCAP, to conduct the election of the Bureau. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it's my pleasure to conduct the election of officers for the ninth session of the Committee on Environment and Development. Before we proceed with the election of the Bureau, I would like to express our deep appreciation to the chair of the informal drafting group on the outcomes of the ninth session of the Committee on Environment and Development. His Excellency Mr. Faiz Mushid Kazi, former ambassador of Bangladesh and permanent representative to ESCAP, who has recently concluded his tenure, and the Vice Chair, Her Excellency Ms. Huda Ali Sharif, Ambassador at Large, Deputy Head of the Mission, and the permanent representative of the Maldives to ESCAP, for guiding the deliberations of the drafting group to a successful conclusion. I now open the floor for nominations for the positions of the chair and the vice chairs. Let us give. Okay. I recognize the distinguished delegates of Mongolia. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Executive Secretary. For the position of Chair of the ninth session of the Committee on Environment and Development, I have the pleasure in proposing His Excellency Mr. Ali Sharif, Minister of Climate Change, Environment and Energy, Republic of the Maldives. Considering that the session is convened at the ministerial level and keeping in mind past practice of ESCAP for similar meetings, my delegation wishes to propose that all ministerial level delegates be elected as vice chairs. Thank you, Madam Deputy Executive Secretary.
Thank you. The distinguished delegate of Mongolia has nominated His Excellency Mr. Ali Sharif, Minister of Climate Change, Environment and Energy, Republic of Maldives, as chair of the 9th session of the Committee on Environment and Development, and all other ministerial level delegates as vice chairs. Would any delegation wish to second the nominations? I recognize the distinguished delegate of Malaysia.
Madam Deputy Executive Secretary, I have a great pleasure in seconding the nomination which have just been proposed by the distinguished delegate of Mongolia for the position of Chair and Vice Chair. Thank you, Madam Deputy Executive Secretary.
Thank you, the distinguished delegate of Malaysia. I recognize the distinguished delegate of Kazakhstan.
Madam Deputy Executive Secretary, I have great pleasure in seconding the nominations which have just been proposed by distinguished delegates of Mongolia for the positions of chair and vice chairs. Thank you, Madam Deputy Executive Secretary.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Kazakhstan. Are there any other nominations for the Bureau of the Committee? I hear none. It's my pleasure then to declare His Excellency Mr. Ali Sharif duly elected as the chair of the 9th session of the committee and all other ministerial level delegates as vice chairs. Please join me in congratulating the newly elected chair and the vice chairs for their election. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it's now my honor to invite His Excellency Mr. Ali Sharif, the chair of the 9th session, to conduct the meeting from this point onwards.
Excellencies, Madam Executive Secretary, distinguished delegates, I thank you all for the confidence placed in me and the great honor that you have bestowed on my country and on me. Together with the Honorable Vice Chairs and with the support of the ESCAP Secretariat, I shall endeavor to discharge the responsibilities of serving as your chair to the best of my ability. So please allow me to say just a few words. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, a very good morning to you all. So first of all, like I said, it's really an honor and a pleasure to serve as the chair of the committee. And I really take this opportunity in thanking the outgoing chair for the excellent work which they have done, and especially on the committee members as well for the excellent work which they have put into the outcome documents. So by assuming this responsibility, I'll be doing to my best of my ability to conduct the work which you are putting on me. So I seek the all the support from the respective delegates from the countries to carry this work forward. So not to take much time, thank you once again for the trust put in me, and look forward for a very fruitful day ahead. Thank you very much. Excellencies, Madam Executive Secretary, distinguished delegates, we will now move to agenda item 1B, adoption of the agenda. The provisional agenda for the 9th session of the Committee on Environment and Development is contained in document ESCAP/CED 9/1/revision 1. So does any delegation have any comments on the agenda? So having seen none, may I propose to the Committee on Environment and Development that the provisional agenda as contained in document ESCAP/CED 9/1/rev1 be adopted. The agenda is adopted. Distinguished delegates, in order to facilitate the conduct of the session, I now turn to the matter of statements in exercise of the right of reply during the meetings of the Committee on Environment and Development. In line with Rule 46 of the Rules of Procedures and practice of the parent body of the Commission, the Economic and Social Council, I propose that in exercising their right of reply, delegations should be as brief as possible and deliver their statements at the end of the meeting at which the right is requested, or at the end of the day, whenever 2 meetings have been scheduled for the day to consider the same item. I further propose that the number of interventions in exercise of the right of reply for any delegation at a given meeting should be limited to 2 per item, with the first intervention limited to 3 minutes and the second, if any, to 2 minutes. Okay, so everybody agrees on that. I hear no objection. So the Committee on Environment and Development proceed accordingly. Delegations wishing to exercise the right of reply are kindly requested to inform the Secretariat staff located to the right next to the rostrum. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I am pleased to now invite the Executive Secretary, Ms. Armida Salcia, to deliver her opening remarks.
Excellency Mr. Ali Sharif, Minister of Climate Change, Environment and Energy of the Maldives and Chair of the 9th session of the Committee on Environment and Development, Ms. Darika Sarungate, Advisor to the Minister of Natural Resources and Environment of the Royal Thai Government, Mr. Lee Junhua, United Nations Under-Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs, youth representatives, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear participants, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 9th session of the Committee on Environment and Development. 4 years ago, the committee met at the ministerial level and adopted the Ministerial Declaration on Protecting Our Planet through Regional Cooperation and Solidarity, together with the Regional Action Program on Air Pollution. These outcomes reaffirm the importance of regional cooperation in addressing our shared environmental and development challenges and provided a strong mandate for the work of the Secretariat and collaboration among our member states. Since then, we have seen encouraging progress across the region. Many member states have strengthened climate ambition through enhanced nationally determined contributions and long-term net zero or carbon neutrality targets. Nature-based solutions are increasingly being integrated into national climate and development strategies. Collaboration among member states has expanded through implementation of the Regional Action Program on Air Pollution, the launch of the Regional Cooperation on Ocean-Based Climate Action initiative, and strengthened efforts to promote resilient and sustainable urban development. We have also seen important advances in environmental governance, including the adoption of the ASEAN Declaration on the Right to a Safe, Clean, Healthy, and Sustainable Environment. These achievements demonstrate what regional cooperation can accomplish. They also show that today's interconnected challenges require us to build on this foundation by advancing synergies across climate change, biodiversity conservation, pollution reduction, and sustainable development. Today, our region continues to drive global economic growth and innovation. Yet, it is also among those most affected by the triple planetary crisis. Climate change is intensifying disasters and disrupting livelihoods. Air pollution continues to impose significant costs on human health and productivity. Biodiversity loss is weakening the natural systems that sustain our economies. Water insecurity is growing across many parts of our region. Our oceans face mounting pressures from pollution and climate change. Rapid urbanization continues to create new opportunities for growth and innovation, while also placing increasing pressure on housing, infrastructure, public services, and natural resources, often exacerbating informality, inequality, and vulnerability to climate and environmental risk. These challenges are deeply interconnected. Decisions taken in one sector increasingly shape outcomes across many others. The way we generate energy affects both climate and air quality. The way we plan and manage our cities influences resilience, water security, biodiversity, energy transitions, and public health. The way we protect and restore ecosystems supports food security, economic resilience, and sustainable livelihoods. Nature-based solutions, circular economy, and sustainable bioeconomy approaches, together with inclusive public participation, show how policies and investment designed to achieve multiple objectives at the same time can reduce trade-offs, maximize co-benefits, and accelerate progress towards the SDGs. Recognizing these interconnections requires a different way of working. Over the past 2 days, many of us gathered at the 7th Global Conference on strengthening synergies between the Paris Agreement and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. One message emerged consistently from those discussions. Fragmented responses are inefficient and cannot keep pace with interconnected challenges. Advancing synergies is a practical necessity for achieving better development outcomes while making the best use of increasingly constrained financial, institutional, as well as technical resources. That message is reinforced by the Asia-Pacific Synergies Report launched yesterday by ESCAP in partnership with the ADB, the United Nations Environment Programme, and the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies with the support of the government of Japan. Drawing on more than 140 case studies, the report demonstrates practical opportunities for advancing synergies across climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution, and sustainable development. It highlights how stronger governance, innovative financing, integrated data systems, resilient and sustainable urban development, and enhanced regional cooperation can help maximize co-benefits and minimize trade-offs, providing practical insights to support implementation by member states. The report is therefore a timely complement to the proposed ministerial declaration on environment and development in Asia Pacific and the proposed regional program of action on advancing synergies for sustainable development in Asia and the Pacific 2026 until 2030, which you will consider during this session. Together, these outcomes reaffirm our shared commitment to addressing the region's environmental and development challenges through stronger regional cooperation, while providing a practical framework for advancing synergistic solutions. The Regional Program of Action provides a strategic framework for strengthening regional cooperation across climate action, biodiversity conservation, pollution control, resilient and sustainable urban development, and oceans and water management. It identifies practical actions to advance synergies through stronger governance, partnership, and investment, helping member states translate ambition into action. Excellencies, this committee now has an opportunity to shape a new phase of regional cooperation on environment and development. The decisions taken over the coming days can help move us from fragmented responses to integrated solutions, from individual initiatives to systemic transformation, and from shared ambition to measurable results. I encourage all delegations to engage openly, share experiences, and work together to build consensus on the actions that will guide our region over the coming years. Together, let us advance synergies, strengthen regional cooperation, and build a more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable future for Asia and the Pacific. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Executive Secretary. As you have highlighted, it's really important that, in a world that we are now getting the resources very scarce, the finance also getting very difficult. And I think that's a very important element that, we work through these synergies, because then that would be putting the limited resources and the time into best use. And as we have always been, telling about moving away from silos, I think that would be a very key and, helpful element to put these synergies together to move away from the silos. So it's very timely and, rightly mentioned. Thank you. So, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I'm pleased to now invite the Under-Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs, Mr. Lee Junhua, to deliver his opening remarks.
Mr. Chair, honorable ministers, Madam Executive Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished participants, good morning. It is an honor for me to join you today at the ninth session of the Committee on Environment and Development. We convened at a critical moment for sustainable development. Conflicts are disrupting lives and diverting vital resources away from development. Climate change is intensifying disasters, threatening food and water security, and exposing the vulnerabilities in our societies and economies. Pollution degrades our land and oceans, harming biodiversity and human health. Together, these cascading crises threaten to derail the progress on the 2030 agenda for the sustainable development. In this region, the outlook is sobering. Environmental degradation and widening inequalities erode gains in poverty reduction, energy access, and maternal and child health. Climate-related disasters are more frequent and severe, causing a devastating toll in human life, displacement, and economic loss. The consequences are clear. At the current pace, Asia and the Pacific is projected to miss 103 out of 170 measurable SDG targets by 2030. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, with just a few years remaining until 2030, we must heed the Secretary General's warning, I quote, "Without urgent action, the 2030 agenda risks becoming an epitaph for the world that might have been." The triple planetary crisis of the climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution shows that the sustainable development challenges are deeply interconnected. When we address them in isolation, we risk the inefficiency and the missed opportunities. When we tackle them holistically, we unlock the synergies and lasting benefits. In face of these crises, we must respond with solidarity and cooperation. Allow me to offer the three priorities for our collective action. First, we must break down silos. Environmental sustainability can no longer be treated as an afterthought. It must be embedded from the outset in our economic planning, public investments, and the national frameworks. The Secretary General has put it more plainly. The old development model, one that treats nature as limitless or externalizes costs to the most vulnerable, has no future. Breaking down silos is not a technical adjustment. It is a fundamental reorientation. Second, we must invest where the impact multiplies. ESCAP estimates that developing countries in the region required an additional $1.5 trillion each year to achieve the SDGs by 2030. This gap will not be closed by increasing spending alone, but by the strategic investment that delivered multiple dividends. A restored mangrove ecosystem, for example, can simultaneously strengthen coastal resilience, support local livelihoods, and protect biodiversity and sequester carbon. Such integrated nature-based solution showed how a single investment can advance the multiple objectives while preserving the natural process and natural resources. Third, we must strengthen the regional cooperation and partnerships. Cooperation is vital to share knowledge, mobilize resources, build resilience, and scale successful solutions. This is essential to ESCAP's mandate and underpins regional action on advancing synergies for sustainable development. Dear colleagues, the decisions taken at this session will resonate far beyond this region. Home to the majority of the world's population, Asia and the Pacific is the key driver of the global growth As we approach the 2027 SDG Summit and the end of the final stretch to the 2030, the region has a unique opportunity to demonstrate that integrated approaches can deliver tangible results for people, planet, and prosperity. I wish you a very productive and successful session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Undersecretary General. Thank you. I mean, I can't agree enough on the 3 points, and especially on the unity that you have emphasized. Like we said, divided we fall, united we stand, right? So which is why it's important to get the regional cooperation and everything going straight. So thank you once again. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, His Excellency Mr. Saschat Komklin, Minister of Natural Resources and Environment of the Kingdom of Thailand, was planning to be here to deliver the opening remarks and welcome address on behalf of the host government. However, the minister was called in for an urgent cabinet meeting and could not join us. Hence, Ms. Darika, advisor to the Minister of Natural Resources and Environment, will deliver the remarks on his behalf. Ms. Darika, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairperson, Madam Executive Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Sawadee ka. On behalf of His Excellency Mr. Suchat Chomklin, Minister of Natural Resources and Environment of Thailand, who is unable to attend due to urgent official commitments, I have the honor to deliver this statement on his behalf at the 9th session of the Committee on Environment and Development. As our world navigates a landscape of profound global uncertainty and accelerating environmental challenges, this committee serves as a pivotal mechanism to fortify our collective resolve, deepen regional solidarity, and decisively map out a clear collective path forward to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. The Asia-Pacific SDG Progress Report 2026 by UN ESCAP paints a clear and sobering picture. The old economic model that once helped our region mark giant strides in economic and social development is now placing increasingly heavy pressure on environmental sustainability. While the Asia-Pacific region has achieved notable success in lifting people out of the poverty, improving public health, providing greater access to education, and improving the living standards of its people, these hard-won gains are being steadily eroded by the compounding crisis of climate inaction, biodiversity loss, and rising emissions. The cumulative effect of these problems risks pushing us back in spiral of inequalities as environmental convulsions shake the old economic order, which we had come to take for granted, and expose a growing conflict between policy ambition and real-world resilience. We must therefore take immediate action, system-wide and unified action to safeguard a resilient, sustainable, and fair future for all. Operating within this challenging context, Thailand remains firmly committed to translating international goals into tangible outcomes at home. Rooted in our 20-year national strategy and driven by the bio-circular green economy model, the Royal Thai government is advancing a just, inclusive, and sustainable transition towards a low-carbon, climate-resilient economy. This approach ensures a true balance between strong economic growth, social fairness, and environmental preservation. To achieve these objectives, the Royal Thai government is implementing an integrated approach that prioritizes the conservation and restoration of natural resources and biodiversity. At the same time, we are enhancing community resilience against climate disruptions and natural hazards. Recognizing that environmental threats transcend national borders, Thailand is actively confronting transboundary challenges, most notably haze and PM 2.5 pollution, as well as sustainable water resource management by building enhanced regional mechanisms and international partnerships. At the same time, we are accelerating our national pathway to net zero emissions by actively expanding the nationwide use of clean energy, sustainable agriculture, eco-friendly transport systems, and green industrial technologies. These changes are being supported by the steady growth of carbon markets and innovative green finance mechanisms designed to mobilize sustainable investments. In parallel, Thailand is improving its disaster management capabilities by using advanced digital technology, biodata, and artificial intelligence to strengthen water resources management, climate adaptation, and early warning systems. Most crucially, our work remains strictly people-centered and community-driven to ensure that the benefits of sustainable development are shared fairly and deliver tangible benefits through all segments of society. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, as we look to the future, our Asia-Pacific region must join forces to give renewed thrust to green transition, build cross-border climate resilience, and promote truly inclusively sustainable development through stronger regional cooperation and integrated action. In this spirit of shared responsibility, the Royal Thai government stands fully ready to work closely with the Secretariat, all member states, business partners, and civil society to pioneer inclusive, scalable, impactful, and lasting solutions. Together, let us secure a resilient, prosperous, and sustainable future for the entire Asia-Pacific community. In conclusion, I extend to all delegates a warm welcome to Thailand and wish you all active and successful deliberations. Thank you for your kind attention. ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you, Ms. Derika, and thank you for sharing the efforts by the Thailand government on addressing the natural disasters and increasing the resiliency. Of course, it's good to see that the use of technology is part of the whole enhancement process. And like you mentioned, putting the people on the center should be the very core element of when we put all the elements and when we talk about the sustainable development. So thank you once again for that. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I'm pleased to now invite the youth representative, Mr. Nguyen Dang Dao, co-founder and co-president of Young Urbanists of South Asia, and Miss Cherry Lee, co-founder of Do Did Dust Food. That's a nice name, by the way. Yeah. And to deliver remarks on behalf of the youth group.
Thank you, Chair. Dear Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to deliver the youth statement on behalf of young people across Asia and the Pacific. We speak today at a critical moment. Asia and the Pacific stand at the front line of the triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. Home to around 700 million young people, the region has huge potential for youth leadership. Yet, youth contributions remain constrained by weak implementation, limited access to decision-making, insufficient funding, and fragmented support. We are not waiting for change, from restoring local ecosystem to supporting the implementation of the National Determined Contributions, NDCs, and advancing climate education. Youth-led initiatives are already translating regional commitments into practical, locally grounded actions. We appreciate the efforts of member states, ESCAP, and partners to open spaces for youth engagement through consultation, forums, and capacity building programs. The opportunity now is to institutionalize youth engagement as a sustained and meaningful partnership to advance regional environmental commitments. Moving from participation to partnership requires more than opportunities, it requires trust. Youth identified a lack of trust as the biggest barrier to co-designing solutions with member states. Building trust requires more than inviting youth into consultation spaces. It requires predictable mechanisms, transparent feedback loops, shared responsibilities, and also meaningful roles in implementation, monitoring, and also accountability.
Trust, however, must be matched by investment. Young people need not only recognition, but also the capacity and institutional support to contribute meaningfully in environmental and climate action. This is reflected in our findings that capacity building emerged as the top priority for government investment. But capacity must mean more than basic training. It means equipping youth with applied skills, mentorship, project management, science data collection, environmental policy communication. When young people are trusted and equipped, we move from mere participants to implementers, mobilizers, monitors, and vital partners in delivering environmental commitments. These lead to our final message: shared ownership. The true impact of meaningful youth engagement is stronger public participation, deeper trust, and shared ownership of environmental action. From building climate-resilient cities to enhancing biodiversity protection, youth as partner turn high-level regional targets into tangible community-led actions that local community can understand, support, and build upon. To achieve these, we invite member states and regional partners to add on 3 priorities. First, institutionalized co-governance by establishing a formal, transparent, well-resourced mechanism for youth participation in environmental policy making and implementation. Second, invest in applied capacity building by providing the technical skills and institutional access for youth-led action to deliver impact at scale. Third, strengthen accountability system that enable youth to contribute to monitoring, evidence generation, community feedback, and reviews of environmental implementation. Excellencies, the future we seek today cannot be achieved through consultation alone, but through partnership. Young people are not only stakeholders in environmental governance. We are partners in implementation, bridges to communities, and co-creators of environmental solutions. Let us make trust, capacity building, and shared ownership the foundation of how we work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dao and Ms. Cherry. I see, it's an important element of youth to be part of all these discussions. And I mean, the youth today is much more well equipped with all the bright ideas and technologies compared to when we were youth. So I think for them to be better leaders tomorrow, I think now it's on us. So the more we engage with them, the better leaders they become tomorrow. So thank you once again. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I understand that the Secretariat has made arrangements for a group photo of heads of delegation of the 9th session of the Committee on Environment and Development to be taken at this time. So may I request the Master of Ceremony to provide the necessary instructions.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we will now proceed with the official group photos. We would like to inform you that there will be 3 sets of photos. First, a photo will be taken with the speakers of the opening ceremony. Then the elected bureau members of the 9th session of the committee will join the speakers for the second photo. And for the third photo, all heads of delegations with member states and organizations will join the stage. For the inaugural photo, may I now invite the chair of the 9th session of the committee, the advisor to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment of Thailand, the Undersecretary General of DESA, ESCAP's Executive Secretary, and both youth representatives to approach the stage in front of the rostrum, please. Excellencies, may I now invite all ministerial level delegates to join the opening speakers for the second photo. Okay. Now, I'm pleased to invite all heads of delegations from countries and organizations to join the stage for the third and final official photograph. Thank you, distinguished delegates, for joining the group photos. Please kindly return to your seats as the official proceedings will resume shortly.
I understand. Should I keep on going? Just go ahead. I understand the Secretariat has prepared a short video to open the session. So may I invite the conference room officer to play the video?
Asia and the Pacific is home to some of the world's richest ecosystems, fastest growing economies, and most dynamic communities. Yet, across the region, the environment is undergoing pressure. We are not on track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, especially the environment-related ones. Across Asia and the Pacific, the signs are unmistakable. A warming climate accelerates ecosystem loss. Degraded environments undermine food security. Pollution continues to threaten the health of people and nature. These challenges are deeply connected and often most acute in urban areas. Too often, those with the least resources bear the greatest burdens. The choices made today will shape the region's future for generations to come. Turning risk into opportunity demands a different approach, one that calls for coordinated policies, investments, and partnerships that recognize the links between climate, biodiversity, pollution, and development. Protecting nature, reducing pollution, and building climate resilience are not separate goals. Synergistic solutions and policymaking can accelerate progress, delivering outcomes that are more cost-effective, equitable, and resilient than standalone responses. From local governments to national capitals, cities are the delivery platforms where synergies become real. The challenges are interconnected. The solutions must be too. By working together, countries can protect the environment, strengthen resilience, and create a more sustainable future for all in Asia and the Pacific.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the Committee on Environment and Development will now consider Agenda Item 2, Stocktaking and Strategic Outlook, Strengthening Regional Cooperation for Environment and Development in Asia and the Pacific. The documents pertaining to this agenda item are ESCAP/CED 9/2, review of the implementation of the Ministerial Declaration on Protecting Our Planet through Regional Cooperation and Solidarity in Asia and the Pacific. ESCAP/CED 9/3, ensuring clean air in Asia and the Pacific, and ESCAP/CED 9/4 on sustainable management of water resources in Asia and the Pacific. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Kurt, Chief Sustainable Urban Development Section, Environment and Development Division, to deliver the presentation by the Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Chair. Distinguished delegates, for this agenda item, you may refer to documents ESCAP/CED 9/2, ESCAP/CED 9/3, and ESCAP/CED 9/4, which provide details on progress in the implementation of the Ministerial Declaration Protecting Our Planet Through Regional Cooperation and Solidarity in Asia and the Pacific, adopted at the 8th session of the Committee on Environment and Development in 2022, on the Regional Action Program on Air Pollution, or RAPAP, and ongoing work with respect to the sustainable management of water resources, respectively. The committee may recall that the ministerial declaration adopted at the 7th session in 2022 encompasses 6 thematic areas as seen here: integrated climate action, nature-based solutions, air pollution, protection of the ocean, sustainable urban development, and access to information and public participation on environmental matters. The Secretariat circulated a survey to members and associate members in November 2025. The survey collected information on each thematic area, identifying domestic progress, persistent and emerging challenges, and priorities for strengthening regional cooperation. The Secretariat would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the responses received from 8 members and 1 associate member, namely Armenia, Bangladesh, China, Georgia, Lao People's Democratic Republic, Republic of Korea, Russian Federation, and Turkey, as well as Macau, China. Allow me to share a brief summary. Of 49 regional members that submitted third-generation nationally determined contributions, 39 have adopted a national target for achieving carbon neutrality or net zero emissions. Most have targets for 2050, with a few aiming for 2060 or 2070. These targets differ in legal status, scope, and policy detail as per national circumstances. To support member states, the Secretariat, in collaboration with UNEP, has since 2022 released annual assessments of regional climate ambitions prior to the Conference of Parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. Assistance to member states included regional training workshops on greenhouse gas emission inventory systems for national climate change experts, as well as support to enhance transparency framework and NDCs. Furthermore, through the Seoul Initiative Network on Green Growth, the Secretariat has organized annual policy consultation forums focusing on the review of the preparation of third-generation NDCs. Member states reported limited data and weak monitoring. Reporting and verification systems continue to be a challenge, as well as insufficient financial resources. With respect to nature-based solutions, 46 ESCAP member states have included nature-based solutions in their climate action plans and/or national policies and initiatives. While reforestation is the most prominent topic for nature-based solutions, they span diverse areas, including degraded landscape restoration, urban forests, and heat islands, as well as community agroforestry, urban water flows, coastal spatial zoning, and the resilience of ecosystems and communities. The Secretariat has provided support to the governments of Bangladesh, Indonesia, Maldives, and Samoa to strengthen policy and governance, finance and trade to enhance nature-based solutions for climate action, with a focus on blue carbon ecosystems, and to ASEAN members on agroecology transitions. Regional cooperation can play an important role in peer-to-peer technical cooperation. With regard to air pollution, declines in different pollutants have been observed in some parts of the region, such as in Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia, driven by effective policy action. Simultaneously, levels of particulate matter and sulfur dioxide pollution have been increasing in South Asia. A link between air quality with national income levels stands out as a pattern. Lower middle income countries are significantly more affected than upper middle income countries. Countries reported the development or update of national or city level air quality management plans and policies to reduce emissions from key sectors, as well as strengthened monitoring and reporting systems for air quality and emissions. Supported by the Secretariat, a new online platform was launched to facilitate coordination and joint action aligned with the 5 action areas of the Regional Action Program on air pollution. It is estimated that 90% of the region's population is exposed to unsafe air. Among the key challenges hampering progress, members report insufficient monitoring stations, emission inventory gaps, institutional capacity limits, weak regulatory enforcement, and low public awareness and engagement. To address these challenges, the Regional Action Program on Air Pollution provides a framework for regional cooperation to promote science-based and policy-oriented cooperation in Asia and the Pacific. With respect to protection of the ocean, 27 member states that submitted their third-generation nationally determined contributions border the ocean. 25 of them included one or more ocean-based measures in their climate targets for 2035, including protecting and restoring blue carbon ecosystems, advancing marine protected areas, and protecting coastal and marine ecosystems. Furthermore, 37 members and 2 associate members have signed and or ratified the agreement under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction, known as the BBNJ Agreement, which entered into force this year. The Secretariat supported the organization of the 3rd UN Ocean Conference in Nice, France, in June 2025, including background documentation. The Secretariat has also organized specialized training, including capacity building on the BBNJ. Challenges to reduce ocean ecosystem degradation include wastewater treatment and solid waste pollution control. Ongoing efforts to tackle these issues are hindered by limited financial resources. Key areas for cooperation include ocean-based climate action, such as blue carbon strategies, sustainable maritime transport, and ocean-based renewable energy. The Asia-Pacific Ocean Week, to be held in October 2026, will serve as a regional platform ahead of the 4th UN Ocean Conference to be co-hosted by the Republic of Korea and Chile in 2028. On sustainable urban development, shifting demographics across Asia-Pacific are placing significant pressures on the urban environment. By 2050, the region's urban population is expected to grow by 50%, adding additional 1.2 billion people. During the same period, the number of older persons is expected to increase by 80%, from 722 million to 1.3 billion. Progress reported by members includes introducing digital, smart city, or innovation-based solutions to improve urban management and service delivery, integrating circular economy and resource-efficient approaches into urban planning and infrastructure, strengthening local government capacity and coordination mechanisms, and mobilizing financing for sustainable urban infrastructure. The Secretariat facilitated platforms such as the Asia-Pacific Mayors Academy and the 8th Asia-Pacific Urban Forum held in Suwon, Republic of Korea in 2023. The 9th Asia-Pacific Urban Forum will be organized in Yokohama, Japan in August and early September 2027. Technical assistance was provided to support voluntary local reviews and integrated urban policy approaches and smart cities, linking national and local development strategies. The Secretariat continued its work on integrated urban climate action for low carbon and resilient cities, or Urban Act. Continuing challenges relate to coordination across ministries and levels of governance which hinder integrated urban planning and the effective translation of national policies into local action. This is exacerbated by limited financial resources for local actions for climate resilience, sustainable infrastructure, and environmental management. Opportunities include expanding technical cooperation and capacity building and promoting innovation, digital transformations, and urban resilience, including through nature-based solutions. ASEAN members adopted a declaration on the right to a safe, clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, combining substantive elements such as the triple planetary crisis with procedural elements of access to information, public participation, and access to justice on environmental matters in support of access to information and public participation as identified in the ministerial declaration. Other subregions reported enhanced environmental information systems or public databases and conducting awareness raising and capacity building activities. The Secretariat, in collaboration with UNEP and OHCHR, provided ongoing support to ASEAN member states in the development and adoption of the declaration to advance environmental governance, including through the safeguarding of the right to a healthy environment. Further support was provided to Pacific Island Forum members, assessing the role of environmental rights in support of the 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent. Challenges in policy implementation affect data users, including the private sector, thereby hindering the effective utilization of environmental information for practical applications. The region requires robust data infrastructure and digital platforms, enhanced standards and quality assurance procedures to facilitate the open and timely dissemination of information. The challenges related to freshwater resources in the region are not only manifold, but they are highly interconnected. Water scarcity, water pollution, and the degradation of water-related ecosystems all negatively impact each other. Climate change and increasing water demand is putting additional pressure on the region's already stressed water resources. As the per capita water availability of the region is among the lowest in the world, the importance of sustainably managing water resources cannot be understated. To support member states, the Secretariat has organized multi-stakeholder events, such as the sub-regional forums on sustainable development, the SDG 6 Roundtable at the 13th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, and the Asia-Pacific Regional Preparatory Meeting for the 2026 UN Water Conference, which was co-organized with the government of Tajikistan. Furthermore, the Secretariat is an active member of UN Water to support a systemic and whole-of-UN approach to the interconnected water challenges. The Secretariat has also built partnerships with the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, or ICIMOD, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, and the Asia Water Council. In conclusion, important progress has been made by members and associate members in all of the priority areas of the Ministerial Declaration of 2022, but challenges persist. Regional cooperation can help accelerate and scale up action, and the new Ministerial Declaration agreed by member states to be formally adopted at this committee will enable the region to build on progress made so far and strengthen cooperation to address outstanding challenges. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Garrigan, for that comprehensive and insightful presentation. It's now my pleasure to invite His Excellency, Mr. Sanoy Boyzoda, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Tajikistan, to report on the outcomes of the Asia-Pacific Regional Preparatory Meetings for the 2026 UN Water Conference convened by ESCAP and the government of Tajikistan in Dushanbe on May 25th.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to everyone. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, what is fundamental to sustainable development in Asia and the Pacific? It underpins economic prosperity, food and energy security, public health, ecosystems, and resilience to climate change and disasters. Across our region, countries have made important progress in expanding access to water and sanitation services, strengthening integrated water resources management, and developing innovative solutions to growing water challenges. However, despite these efforts, our region remains off track to achieve Sustainable Development Goal 6 by 2030. Climate change, melting of glaciers, growing demand for water and persistent inequalities continue to intensify pressures on water resources, underscoring the need for accelerating action. In this regard, Tajikistan remains committed to advancing the global water agenda through Dushanbe Water Process and other international initiatives that promote cooperation and action on water and sustainable development. It was a privilege for the government of the Republic of Tajikistan to co-organize with the ESCAP Secretariat the Asia-Pacific Regional Preparatory Meeting for the 2026 United Nations Water Conference in Dushanbe on 25th May 2026, in conjunction with the 4th High-Level International Conference on the International Decade for Action, Water for Sustainable Development 2018-2028. The regional preparatory meeting brought together over 100 representatives from members and associated members and a broad range of other stakeholders from across the Asia-Pacific to ensure that the region's perspective, experiences, and priorities are reflected in preparations for the 2026 United Nations Water Conference and its 6 interactive dialogues. A clear overarching message emerged from the discussions. Achieving SDG 6 will require accelerated, integrated, and transformative action. Interactive Dialogue A, Water for People, emphasized the need to ensure equitable access to safe water and sanitation for all, particularly vulnerable communities through climate resilient and inclusive service delivery. Interactive Dialogue B, Water for Prosperity, highlighted the importance of integrated water resources management, improved water use efficiency, and stronger linkages between water, food, and economic development. Interactive Dialogue C, Water for Planet, stressed the need for source-to-sea approaches, ecosystem protection, and restoration, enhanced resilience to floods and droughts, and improved hydrological monitoring and data systems. Interactive Dialogue D, Water for Cooperation, underscored the value of transboundary cooperation, scientific collaboration, data sharing, and joint monitoring as foundations for trust and for increasing resilience. Interactive Dialogue E, Water in Multilateral Processes, called for stronger coherence across international frameworks and for elevating water as a strategic issue that connects climate, biodiversity, and sustainable development agendas. And lastly, Interactive Dialogue F, Investments for Water, highlighted the urgent need to close financing, technology, and capacity gaps through sustainable financing approaches, technology transfer, and enhanced international cooperation. These priorities strongly resonate with the outcomes of the 4th High-Level Water Conference laid down in the Dushanbe Declaration. A non-negotiated summary of discussions has been included in the co-chair summary of the 4th High-Level Conference, which will be presented at the High-Level Forum on Sustainable Development later this month and will also be transmitted to the 2026 United Nations Water Conference to take place from 8th to 10th December in Abu Dhabi. Tajikistan remains committed to working closely with all member states, the ESCAP Secretariat, and partners to ensure successful and action-oriented 2026 UN Water Conference to accelerate progress in achieving SDG 6 and further strengthen the sustainable management of water resources in our region and globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for that comprehensive report. Now, a ministerial roundtable will further set the scene for this agenda item. I would like to give the floor to Ms. Lin Yang, Deputy Executive Secretary, for program to moderate the ministerial roundtable.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to facilitate this ministerial roundtable discussion, focusing on the theme of strengthening regional cooperation for environment and development in Asia and the Pacific. This roundtable will reflect on current and emerging challenges and opportunities for the Asia-Pacific region, and provide pathways and recommendations for strengthening regional cooperation. To start the discussion, it's my great honor to invite Her Excellency and also good friend of ESCAP, Ms. Linda Tamura, Minister of Information, Environment, and Climate Change of Fiji, to share your perspectives and the development challenges from the Pacific. Your Excellency, in your capacity as the host of the 6th Forum of Ministers and Environment Authorities of Asia and the Pacific, would you please share the key outcomes of that forum and also highlight priorities and the challenges for Pacific Island states, as well as opportunities to address them? Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Honorable Chair, Madam Deputy Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Bula Vinaka and warm greetings from Fiji and the Blue Pacific continent. Excellencies, I am proud to provide an update on the outcomes from the 6th Forum of Ministers and Environmental Authorities of Asia Pacific, or AP6, the first to be hosted in Fiji and the Pacific under the theme Advancing Sustainable Solutions for a Resilient Planet. Though the forum was held before I took over this portfolio, Fiji's dedication and commitment remain steadfast in progressing regional priorities presented at the 7th United Nations Environment Assembly. In recognizing the importance of multi-stakeholder engagement and input, there were a number of events held with their outcomes submitted for consideration by the senior officials meeting, including 1, Asia-Pacific Youth Environment Forum, 2, Science, Policy and Business Dialogue, and 3, Asia-Pacific Major Groups and Other Stakeholders Meeting. Over 300 representatives from 33 Asia-Pacific countries participated, highlighting a number of key issues as necessary for advancement. 1. The need for urgent continued discussions on the Plastics Treaty and a clear way forward, as well as coordinated regional cooperation to tackle plastic pollution. 2. Sustainable funding that is accelerated and easily accessible, especially for indigenous and local communities, including technology transfer. 3. Recognizing and mainstreaming free, prior, informed consent as the crucial principle and rights of the indigenous peoples and local communities, amplified in data sovereignty, land tenure, and governance. 4. Addressing impacts of climate change and the need for accountable action and sustainable climate financing. 5. Maintain the special circumstances of small island developing states. And 6. Continuing UNEP's support to SIDS for the development of strategies and the recognition of traditional knowledge as effective methods for effective local management. The following resolutions forwarded by the Forum were adopted at UNEA 7, showing the need for collective action to our shared challenges. These were 1, accelerating global action to promote the climate resilience of coral reefs, presented by Fiji, meaningful participation of children and youth in environmental and climate change action, presented by Sri Lanka, strengthening global response on management of wildfires, presented by India, and promoting synergies, cooperation, and collaboration for national implementation of MEAs, presented by Japan. Excellencies, we must now work together to implement these priorities and commitments into action. It is our collective responsibility to safeguard our rich biodiversity and enhance resilience to climate change through strategic pathways. As we take the AP6 and UNEA 7 outcomes forward, let this be an era of implementation and action. Vinakavaklevu, thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for sharing those key outcomes of the forum and also share your strong call for action. Small island developing states, development countries certainly face unique challenges, but the platforms like the forum, like the ESCAP committee today, offers opportunities to strengthen regional cooperation to address those. Now it's my pleasure to invite His Excellency Mr. Abdul Abwa Mintu, Minister of Environment, Forest, and Climate Change of Bangladesh, to take the floor. Your Excellency, during the 82nd session of our Commission in April this year, Bangladesh urged the Asia-Pacific member states to consider regional actions to advance a sustainable bioeconomy, including through the adoption of an ESCAP resolution on supporting the transition towards a sustainable bioeconomy. Hence, I would like to ask you, Your Excellency, to share your perspectives on the importance of a sustainable bioeconomy and the regional cooperation in this regard. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Ms. Lin Yang, distinguished ministers and delegates, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this important question. Bangladesh welcomes this discussion because the sustainable bioeconomy is not only an environmental issue for a country like Bangladesh, it is also about the jobs, food, security, climate resilience, rural income, and regional cooperation. This agenda is now very important globally. The global bioeconomy is estimated at about 4 trillion today and may reach around 7.7 trillion by 2030. But these opportunities must be sustainable and inclusive. It should not create new pressure on land, water, and biodiversity. It should help farmers, fishers, women, children, small enterprises, and vulnerable communities to get real benefit. Bangladesh sees this as a survival and development strategy. We are a delta country. Our people face floods, cyclone, salinity, river erosion, and heat stress. Recent World Bank findings reported by Reuters show that rising heat cost Bangladesh up to 1.7 billion US dollar in 2024 and cost around 25 million workdays to be lost. Therefore, we cannot treat climate action and economic development separately. A sustainable bioeconomy can connect both. Bangladesh has some practical experiences which may be useful for other countries of the region. First, jute is our golden fiber. We are trying to move jute from traditional sacks and ropes to higher value products, including diversified jute goods and jute-based biodegradable alternative to plastic, such as the Sonali bag. The main lesson is clear. Traditional crops can become modern green industries when research, market demand, and public policy work together. Second, Bangladesh has experienced rural bioenergy and circular use of waste. ITCOL had implemented its biogas program since 2006 with support from development partners. By December 2020, it had financed more than 56,500 biogas plants. These plants provide cooking gas, produce organic fertilizers, reduce firewood use, and reduce chemical fertilizer use. ITCOL is also reported annual emission reduction of about 216,400 tons of CO2. In addition, its improved cook stove program disseminated 2.46 million stoves by December 2020. This shows how small technologies can give large benefit when finance, local partners, and technical standards are combined. Third, the blue bioeconomy is very important for Bangladesh. The Sundarbans, located in the delta of the Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Meghna rivers, is the largest contiguous mangrove forest in the world. UNESCO notes that about 60% of the Sundarbans lies in Bangladesh and that it supports rich biodiversity, including the Royal Bengal tiger, dolphins, crocodiles, and many bird species. For Bangladesh, mangroves are not only forests, they are the natural infrastructure. They protect coastal people from storm surge, support fisheries, store carbon, and create livelihoods. Fourth, our financing experience is also relevant. It calls solar home system program install about 4.13 million systems by January 2019 and gave electricity access to around 1.8 million people in remote areas. This is not only a solar story, it is a lesson on how concessional finance, private partner organizations, technology quality, control and after-sale services can take green solutions to village level. The same approach can be used for biogas, biofertilizer, bio-based products, and climate-smart rural enterprises. Distinguished colleagues, no country can build a sustainable bioeconomy alone. The Asia Pacific region has different strengths. Some countries have technology and investment capacity. Some have large biological resources. Some have a strong community-based adaptation experience. We need to connect this strength through regional cooperation. Bangladesh would like to suggest 4 areas of regional action. Number one, create a regional knowledge platform under ESCAP to share tested models, not only policy statements. Second, support joint research on jute, bamboo, seaweed, biofertilizer, biogas, sustainable aquaculture, and mangrove restoration. Third, development common standard for bio-based products so that small producers can enter regional markets. Fourth, establish a project preparation and financing window for bankable bioeconomy projects, especially for least developed and climate vulnerable countries. We also need South-South and triangular cooperation. Countries with stronger technology and finance can work with countries having field-level experience and biological resources. These cooperations should be practical, training, technology transfer, pilot projects, concessional finance, and market access. Let me conclude by saying that Bangladesh is ready to share its experience and learn from the others. The golden fiber of Bangladesh, the biogas plant in a rural household, the mangrove in the coastal belt, and the fisheries in our rivers all tell the same message. Nature and economy can move together if we use them well and wisely. A sustainable bioeconomy is not a luxury. It is a practical pathway to climate resilience, green jobs, and SDG delivery. Let us work together to make this pathway regional, inclusive, and people-centered. Thank you for kind attention.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for sharing your national initiatives and the best practices in Bangladesh that may be replicated across the region. And also thank you for your leadership and determination to advance a sustainable bioeconomy in the region. Now it's my pleasure to turn to His Excellency Mr. Aram May Mayan, Deputy Minister of the Environment of Armenia. Your Excellency, Armenia will host the 17th Conference of the Parties of the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, in Yerevan later this year, from 19th to 30th October. What are Armenia's priorities for the COP, and what are your thoughts with regard to strengthening synergies across the Rio conventions? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues and delegates. It's a great pleasure to join this important ministerial roundtable. Armenia is honored to host the 17th Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity in Yerevan this October. Our vision for presidency is captured in one simple message: taking action for nature. Today, the world no longer needs more commitments. It needs implementation. COP17 must become a turning point where we collectively demonstrate how biodiversity action can deliver tangible benefits for people, economies, and the planet. Our presidency will therefore focus on three priorities. First, accelerating implementation of Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. COP17 should help translate global commitments into national action through stronger partnerships, financing, capacity building, and innovation. A key milestone in this regard will be the first global review of the implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework, which will provide an opportunity to assess collective progress, identify gaps, share successful experiences, and strengthen accountability. We see this global review not simply as a stock-taking exercise, but as a catalyst for accelerating implementation worldwide. Second, promoting an inclusive and action-oriented COP. Governments alone cannot achieve the goals of the Global Biodiversity Framework. Success depends on meaningful engagement of indigenous peoples and local communities, women, youth, civil society, academia, and the private sector. Armenia is committed to ensuring that COP17 becomes a platform for practical partnership and collective action. Third, strengthening international cooperation and synergies. Biodiversity loss, climate change, and land degradation are interconnected crises. Addressing them separately is no longer an option. This brings me to your second question, Madam Chair, regarding synergies across the Rio Conventions. For Armenia, synergies is not only a global priority, it's the foundation of our national environmental policy. Our ecosystems, water resources, agricultural landscapes, and rural livelihoods are deeply interconnected. Water stress, land degradation, and biodiversity loss directly affect climate resilience, food security, and sustainable development. Therefore, integration must begin at the planning stage. This approach is reflected in Armenia's recently adopted NDC for 2026-2035 and our adopted National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, which together provide a coherent framework for climate action, biodiversity conservation, and ecosystem resilience. By aligning these strategic processes, we are working to ensure that mitigation, adaptation, restoration, and sustainable land management reinforce one another while contributing to inclusive economic development. Our experience demonstrates that integrated planning leads to better policy coherence, more efficient use of resources, stronger institutions, and greater resilience for both nature and people. Regional cooperation is equally essential. Platforms such as ESCAP play an important role in facilitating knowledge exchange, strengthening capacities, and promoting integrated approaches that can be adapted to national circumstances across Asia and the Pacific. Excellencies, biodiversity is not a standalone environmental issue. It is the foundation of climate resilience, water security, food systems, healthy ecosystems, and sustainable economies. As the incoming presidency of CBD COP17, Armenia is committed to fostering dialogue, building consensus, and advancing practical solutions that strengthen synergies across the Rio Conventions and accelerate implementation of the 2030 Agenda. We warmly invite all ESCAP member states and partners to join us in Yerevan this October. Together, let us move from ambition to implementation, taking action for nature. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for sharing this very resonating theme, taking action for nature. And also, thank you for highlighting the President's priorities for COP17 and offering recommendations for strengthening synergies across the Rio Conventions. And at the same time, I would like to thank you for acknowledging the essential role of regional cooperation, which ESCAP is and will facilitate. Now, it's my pleasure to turn to His Excellency Mr. Doi Kantaro, Vice Minister for Global Environmental Affairs from the Ministry of Environment of Japan. Your Excellency, Japan has been a strong promoter of the concept of the synergies, tabling 2 resolutions at the UN Environment Assembly and supporting the development of the Asia-Pacific Synergies Report, which we launched yesterday and will be discussed this afternoon. Would you share Japan's experience in advancing synergies domestically and your vision and the recommendation for advancing regional cooperation on synergies in Asia and the Pacific? You have the floor.
Thank you for the introduction. I am honored to speak at this ministerial roundtable today and appreciate the opportunity. The Asian Pacific region faces many environmental and socio-economic challenges which continue to slow progress on the SDGs. Addressing these challenges requires synergistic approaches that maximize co-benefits and minimize trade-offs. Japan has consistently promoted synergies, including by leading the adoption of synergy resolutions at the recent UNEA sessions. To effectively implement synergies on the ground, it is important to have approaches that fit local contexts. Japan has worked with ESCAP, ADB, and UNEP to compile good practices and policy guidance on synergies in the Asian Pacific region, and the report was launched yesterday. This report, based on analysis and more than 100 case studies, provides valuable insights for translating synergies into concrete policies and implementing them on the ground. I hope it will serve as a practical guide for stakeholders, include international organizations, governments, and local authorities, and the private sector. Let me share one example from Japan. In a small countryside town, an aerobic fermentation and drying method is used for waste management. It utilizes microorganisms to break down and dry organic waste using oxygen. Given limited human and financial resources, it reduces both construction and operational costs. It also avoids incinerating waste and enables use of the resulting solid fuel in paper mills and so on. As a result, about 1,000 tons of CO2 emissions are reduced annually. This example demonstrates how synergistic approaches can contribute not only to climate action and circular economies, but also to local economy development and can be applied in other regions. Lastly, I would like to emphasize the importance of regional cooperation in advancing synergies. Japan firmly recognizes the importance of the regional program of action and fully supports its adoption. Also, Japan will host the 9th Asian Pacific Urban Forum in Yokohama next year. I look forward to welcoming all of you to Yokohama and deepening our discussions on advancing synergies in the region together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency, for providing this insights and the very concrete example as well. And thank you for your very warm invitation to all of us to the 9th Urban Forum. We appreciate Japan's contributions to advancing synergies in support of the SDGs and efforts to address the triple planetary crisis in Asia and the Pacific. Now it's my pleasure to call upon His Excellency Mr. Sigit Rillian Toro, Deputy Minister for Environment, Governance, and Sustainable Natural Resources of the Ministry of Indonesia. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellency, distinguished delegates, Indonesia experience show that community-based climate action can be scaled up when three elements work together: enabling regulation, ecosystem-based planning, and empower local communities. First, we need a clear regulation foundation. Indonesia is strengthening the protection and management of peatland and mangrove ecosystem through regulatory framework, including government regulation and related policy instrument. This is important because peatland and mangrove are not only carbon-rich ecosystem, they also support livelihood, biodiversity, water security, disaster risk reduction, and coastal resiliency. Second, Indonesia applies an ecosystem-based approach. Peatland management is organized through peatland ecosystem units, while mangrove rehabilitation is advanced through mangrove landscape unit. This approach recognizes that peatland and mangrove cannot be managed only by administrative boundaries. They must be managed according to ecological function, hydrological connectivity, coastal dynamics, and the community who depend on them. Third, local communities are placed at the center of restoration. Based on detailed inventory and mapping, Indonesia has identified 2,350 villages as priority location for peatland restoration and around 400 villages covering more than 20,000 hectares as priority location for mangrove ecosystem rehabilitation. Through the Peat Care Village program and the Mangrove Care Village program, restoration is implemented at the village level by combining international funding, corporate social responsibility, national and local budget support, and the expertise and resources of local university. For peatland restoration, Indonesia applies the 3R strategy: rewetting, revegetation, and revitalization of local economy. This strategy restore peat hydrology, improve vegetation cover, and create sustainable livelihood opportunity for the local people. It has also contributed to reducing the risk and incidence of land and forest fire in peatland ecosystem. Indonesia has also developed the Climate Village Program, or PROCLAIM, as national platform for community-based climate action. PROCLAIM was launched in 2011 and became national program in 2016, and in 2027, Indonesia set a target of 10,000 program villages by 2030. Today, more than 13,000 villages have registered, exceeding the target for year earlier than planned. The strength of PROCLAIM lies in the bottom-up approach. Communities initiate adoption and mitigation action, while government provide facilitation, technical guidance, capacity building, and recognition. Successful villages receive awards and that strengthen their capability and improve access to broader support, including from the private sector and philanthropy. From this experience, Indonesia believes that countries in Asia and the Pacific can scale up community-based approach by establishing enabling regulation, planning based on ecosystem units, and empowering community as active partners in ecosystem restoration and protection, and connecting local action with sustainable financing. In this way, climate action become not only an environmental agenda, but also a pathway for inclusive growth, resilient livelihood, and stronger regional cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for sharing Indonesia's experience in promoting inclusive and resilient development. In particular, the important progress in empowering local communities as key actors in environmental management, while also striving to align climate goals with economic growth and the development priorities. Thank you so much. So with all of this said, this concludes the ministerial roundtable. Dear delegates, excellencies, please join me in giving a big round of applause to thank all the ministers for your time and intervention. Thank you. With that, I hand over the proceedings back to the chair.
Thank you very much, our panelists, for their insightful statements, and to Madam Deputy Executive Secretary for your able moderation. I will now open the floor for country statements. I would like to urge all speakers to adhere to the time limit of 4 minutes for the ministerial delegates and 3 minutes for all the other speakers to ensure we can hear from all those who are participating. I also would like to remind delegations that in case of longer statement, you may only deliver the summary version and provide the Secretariat with the full statement for sharing through the Committee on Environment and Development website. Based on the request received, the Secretariat has prepared a tentative list of speakers. If other delegations wish to speak, they may raise their country nameplate and notify the Secretariat. In order to maintain order and for delegations to be ready to take the floor, when I call on the speaker, I will also announce the delegation next in line. The delegations called upon to speak would speak from their country seats. So these rules are clear for all the delegates? Okay, so see none. Okay, I now open the floor for statements. Oh, the first speaker is, I was supposed to actually give my statement. So I asked my deputy, Mr. Ahmad Wahid, to give the statement on behalf of Maldives. And then the next in line will be Fiji, followed by Republic of Korea. Mr. Wahid, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to you all. At the outset, let me thank you and ESCAP for convening this important event. The Maldives is pleased to participate in this 9th session of the Committee on Environment and Development and commend you and ESCAP for bringing us together to discuss how we can collectively strengthen regional cooperation for environment and development in Asia and the Pacific. As a small island developing state, the Maldives experiences the impacts of climate change every day. Sea level rise, coastal erosion, change in weather patterns, and increasingly severe climate-related hazards threaten not only our ecosystems, but also our economy, infrastructure, water security, and the well-being of our people. These realities reinforce the importance of regional solidarity and collective actions in implementing the Ministerial Declaration on Protecting Our Planet through Regional Cooperation. The structural vulnerability of us remains disproportionately susceptible to external shocks and natural hazards, frequently losing a significant percentage of our GDP to climate-related disasters and external shocks. This is why we reiterate our call to maintain the specific circumstances of SIDS and measure our development progress by special means and dimensions such as multidimensional structural vulnerability index, which equally recognizes that vulnerability is multidimensional, economic, environmental, and social. Our experience demonstrates that environmental protection, climate resilience, and sustainable development must advance together. Allow me to highlight our experiences which are relevant to the ministerial declaration adopted earlier. Excellencies and colleagues, we have invested heavily in increasing access to safe water and sanitation services to our population through integrated water resource management. Due to limited availability of water resources, we rely heavily on desalination to meet our potable water needs. At the same time, groundwater protection and rainwater harvesting remains our priority, and as a complementary means to increase our water security and availability. Yet climate is impacting water resources. Saltwater intrusion threatens freshwater lands of many islands. We welcome the emphasis on integrated water resource management, but call upon stronger support for small island states where water security and scarcity are compounded by climate and other challenges. Storms and extreme events are increasing in frequency and intensity. With limited resources we are strengthening our early warning systems, yet regional cooperation is essential to build robust disaster risk reduction mechanisms and enhance early warning capacities in the face of climate change. Excellency, the Maldives is affected by transboundary air pollution, causing impacts on health and economy of our population. We recall the 1998 Maldives Declaration on Air Quality, which still remains a cornerstone for regional collaboration in this area. We believe it's high time for us to take bold and urgent action to tackle this very issue through cooperation and support. Through our NDC 3.0, we have set ambitious climate targets, including adaptation, mitigation, and support, which we think are important to implement our NDC. We are working to reduce dependency on imported fossil fuels by scaling up renewable energy and promotion of energy efficiency. But to achieve these targets, support remains crucial and essential. Mr. Chair, global tensions have placed a heavy burden on our economy, driving up food and fuel prices and disrupting supply chains. These external shocks compound the challenges of climate change and demonstrate our vulnerability. Finally, achieving our ambition requires adequate means of implementation. Access to predictable, adequate, and grant-based finance remains critical. Climate vulnerable countries should not face additional financial burdens in responding to a crisis we did little to create. We therefore call for enhanced international support, including simplified and accessible climate finance, technology transfer, and capacity building that respond to the unique vulnerabilities and circumstances of SIDS. Excellencies and colleagues, the Maldives believes that environmental sustainability and economic development are mutually reinforcing. By strengthening regional cooperation, sharing solutions, and supporting the countries most vulnerable to climate change, Asia-Pacific can build a more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable future. The Maldives stands ready to work with all partners in advancing this shared agenda. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Maldives. So next, I give the floor to Fiji, followed by the Republic of Korea, and then followed by Iran. Fiji, you have the floor.
Honorable Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin on behalf of the people and the government of Fiji, extend our sincere condolences to the King of Thailand, His Majesty, King Maha Vajiralongkorn, on the passing of his eldest daughter, Her Royal Highness Princess Pajarakitiaba. May the people of Thailand be comforted at this time of national mourning. Over the past 2 days, I've engaged in the Climate and SDG Synergies Conference, and one message that has stood out clearly is the need to work together. Collaboration, coordination, and collective action should be our foundation for Agenda 2030 and beyond. For Fiji, this is essential to our implementation on the ground. We do this through interagency and multi-stakeholder partnerships and engagements when undertaking national initiatives, particularly for environment and climate change legislative and policy interventions. Fiji's Climate Change Act of 2021 is a national framework that connects communities, resource owners, provincial and local structures, civil society, the private sector, and development partners to Fiji's broader climate response. Its implementation requires shared understanding of the rights, responsibilities, safeguards, and institutional pathways. Fiji also remains firmly committed to protecting Fiji's environment and biodiversity. We are investing in ecosystem restoration, strengthening protected areas, improving legislation and enforcement, and placing communities at the center of conservation and climate action. This is not a commitment we take lightly. Following the launch of Fiji's third nationally determined contribution, we are now developing its costed implementation plan, reflecting our continued whole-of-society approach to climate action through divisional consultations and community dialogues which are gender-responsive and socially inclusive, along with dedicated inclusion of traditional knowledge and indigenous science of our communities. Of course, these national actions must connect with regional initiatives and international ambition. Through the Pacific Islands Forum, we are advancing our 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent, a regional blueprint for a resilient Pacific. The strategy places people at the center, recognizing the intrinsic value of culture, heritage, and history, and promotes strong leadership in delivering our shared vision. Equally, we continue to show regional strength through coordination of the Pacific Small Island Developing States and operationalization of the Pacific Resilience Facility, a Pacific-owned and Pacific-led initiative complementary to the international climate finance regime. Finally, as Fiji prepares to host pre-COP31, we believe this will be an opportune time to reaffirm our collective commitment to achieving the 1.5-degree temperature goal of the Paris Agreement, increased and simplified access to climate finance, elevation of the ocean climate nexus, and championship of adaptation and resilience. We look forward to welcoming leaders and partners to Nandi in October to collectively define ambitious and practical priorities for COP31. Vinakavakalevu, thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And now I give the floor to Republic of Korea, followed by Iran, then followed by Sri Lanka. Korea, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished Minister, Excellencies, and distinguished delegates. Allow me to begin by expressing my appreciation to ESCAP for convening the 9th session of the Committee on Environment and Development. This meeting comes at a time when multilateral cooperation is more important than ever. Complex geopolitical challenges and supply chain disruption call for practical and effective multilateral action. Today, we have an opportunity to share the achievement of cooperation and solidarity across the Asia-Pacific region. Building on the best practice of our member states, we should work together to strengthen integration and create greater synergy for even stronger outcomes. I hope this session will make a meaningful contribution to environmentally sound and sustainable development across the Asia-Pacific region. Excellencies, climate change remains the most urgent challenge facing our region. The world is still far from achieving the 1.5 degree goal, and the Asia-Pacific region is the most severely affected by climate change. This is why stronger national efforts and close regional cooperation are essential. In this spirit, the Republic of Korea has significantly strengthened its 2035 nationally determined contribution. We now aim to reduce greenhouse gas emission by up to 61% from 2018 levels. At the same time, we are transforming our power system toward renewable energy. The Republic of Korea is reshaping its energy system around renewable energy while accelerating electrification across industry, transport, and buildings. By 2030, we will expand renewable energy capacity to 100 gigawatts and raise its share of electricity generation to more than 20%. At the same time, we are investing in transmission networks and energy storage system to build a reliable and resilient clean energy system. Distinguished delegates, science and environment cooperation are key to addressing environment challenges. Recent advances in AI and satellite data have significantly enhanced our capacity to forecast air quality, underscoring the growing need for coordinated action on this basis. The Republic of Korea continues to promote regional cooperation on air pollution through initiatives such as the Northeast Asia Clean Air Partnership. Thanks to the combined effort of countries across Northeast Asia and our regional cooperation, air pollution in the region has declined significantly over the past decade. During this session, the Republic of Korea will co-organize a side event with China and ESCAP to share these achievements. We will continue to share our experience and lessons learned through future opportunity for cooperation. Excellencies, while progress has been made, the implementation of a ministerial declaration on protecting our planet through regional cooperation must move faster. Many countries continue to face challenges in policy, technology, data, and financing. For the past 20 years, the Republic of Korea has contributed to capacity building across the Asia-Pacific region through the Seoul Initiative on Green Growth. We will continue to expand cooperation and support so that carbon neutrality can become a driver of sustainable growth for all countries. I hope this ministerial conference will provide an opportunity to take an objective look at the regional cooperation in the Asia-Pacific and identify concrete action and effective means of implementation. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Excellency. Now I give the floor to Islamic Republic of Iran, followed by Sri Lanka, and then followed by Pakistan. Excellency, you have the floor.
In the name of God, Excellencies, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I would like to express the sincere appreciation of the Islamic Republic of Iran to the Kingdom of Thailand and the ESCAP Secretariat for hosting this important meeting and for their valuable efforts in strengthening regional environmental cooperation. Today, the Asia-Pacific region, with its vast geography and large population, stands at the forefront of numerous environmental crises: climate change, air and marine pollution, biodiversity loss, land degradation, dust and sandstorms, waste management challenges, and plastic pollution are among the most pressing issues we face. Given the global nature of the environment, none of these challenges recognizes national borders, and no country can address them alone. Yet beyond these accelerating environmental crisis lies another human-made threat, one that inflicts perhaps the most severe and humane damage upon the environment: environmental destruction resulting from war and military aggression. Ladies and gentlemen, our meeting today is taking place in a region that only decades ago witnessed some of the gravest war crimes and environmental catastrophes caused by the warmongering of major powers. The devastating legacy of Agent Orange and cluster munitions continues to affect countries such as Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia to this very day. I stand before you today on behalf of the Islamic Republic of Iran and its proud people, a nation that over the past year has been subjected to 2 acts of aggression launched by the United States of America and its proxy, the Zionist regime. The very initiation of these acts of aggression constituted a blatant violation of the fundamental principles of the civilized international order. Equally disturbing has been the silence and inaction of the international institutions entrusted with safeguarding peace and justice. The attacks on Minab School, the girls' sports club in Lamert, and the deliberate targeting of oil facilities, drinking water infrastructure, and residential areas constitute grave crimes that demand a unified response from the civilized and freedom-loving nations of the world. However, beyond the humanitarian consequences, the environmental impacts of these brutal attacks represent a profound threat to the entire planet. Carbon emissions equivalent to the annual emissions of 60 countries generated within only the first 2 weeks of the attacks, serious damage to the ecologically sensitive waters of the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, reckless attacks against peaceful nuclear facilities, and widespread destruction of biodiversity are only some of the most significant consequences. Attacks on industrial facilities, the release of hazardous pollutants following a strike on fuel storage sites around Tehran and other refineries, threats to water and soil resources, destruction of natural habitats, increased emissions of pollutants, and the risk of transboundary contamination are only part of the environmental consequences whose impacts will extend far beyond Iran's borders. The environment is the first silent victim of war and the last to recover from its consequences. Nature does not recognize the end of armed conflict. Environmental destruction may continue to undermine humanity health, food security, water resources, and biodiversity for decades after the guns fall silent. For this reason, protecting the environment during armed conflicts is not merely a moral obligation. It is a binding obligation under international law that must be respected and implemented with greater determination. We believe the time has come for the international community to recognize environmental security as an essential pillar of international peace and security. Lasting peace cannot exist without a healthy environment, and environmental destruction anywhere in the world can generate consequences that transcend national boundaries. Likewise, the fundamental polluter pays principle should not be confined solely to economic activities. When the environment is damaged as a result of unlawful acts and military aggression, those responsible must accept international responsibility for their actions and provide full compensation for the environmental damage they have caused. Effective implementation of this principle not only serves justice for the affected state, but also plays an essential role in preventing the recurrence of such devastation. Ladies and gentlemen, despite these immense challenges and despite decades of unjust unilateral sanctions that have deprived my country of access to the financial and technological mechanisms established under international environmental conventions, the Islamic Republic of Iran remains firmly committed to regional cooperation for the conservation of biodiversity, combating climate change and air pollution, protecting marine ecosystems, managing natural resources, addressing dust and sandstorms, and promoting the exchange of knowledge and technology. We firmly believe that environmental protection should never become an arena for confrontation, but rather a platform for building trust, strengthening cooperation, and advancing our shared responsibility among nations. Allow me to conclude with these words. When war targets the environment, the victim is not merely one nation. It is the shared heritage of humanity. Therefore, protecting the environment must become a common global responsibility. Remaining silent in the face of environmental destruction is tantamount to accepting a threat that will, sooner or later, engulf us all. I thank you.
Thank you, Excellency Ms. Sheena. Respective delegates, please, once again, I urge every delegate to keep up to the time limit in the interest of other speakers also to deliver their statements. So if the time runs out, I will try to make an intervention to remind. So please try to make up within the time limits. So now I give the floor to Sri Lanka, followed by Pakistan, then Indonesia. Sri Lanka, you have the floor.
Distinguished chairs, excellencies, and fellow delegates, it is an honor to address in this ninth session of the Committee on Environmental and Development. We gather in Bangkok to take stock of our collective journey towards resilience and sustainable Asia Pacific. On behalf of Sri Lanka, I wish to express our sincere appreciation for our Secretariat's tireless work implementing the ministerial declaration protecting our planets through regional cooperation and solidarity. Sri Lanka remains steadfast in commitment to the regional agenda. We take pride in our active participation in the regional action promotion on air pollution, which serve as a landmark region-wide framework for the science-based cooperation. A significant milestone on our recent effort was presentation Sri Lanka's National Clean Air Action Plan during the Clean Air Week 2024 in Seoul and Ijeon. This platform allowed to us share our national strategies and engage with the expert in innovative approach air pollution emission inventories and monitoring. We also acknowledge vital role of the Secretariat in facilities capacity building, which are essential for the filling gaps in ground-based air quality monitoring. These technological advancements are crucial for our region, where majority of the pollution is still exposed to unsafe air levels. Addressing persistent challenges. Despite these sprite, we must conform in sobering reality that South and Southwest Asia remain a goal hotspot for the particularly matter exposed, with air pollution ranking as the leading risk factor death in our region, sub-region. Furthermore, as a small island nation, Sri Lanka faces multi-faced threats. The year 2025 brought devastating floods and severe rainfall to South Asia, underscoring our vulnerability to climate include water cycles. We are also grappling with the oversalination of groundwater aquifers due to rising and storm stage, sea level and storm stage, which directly threatens our food security and public health. A vision for the future look ahead, Sri Lanka appeared deepen its engagement through several key strategic pillars. We recognize that siloed policies are no longer sufficient intent to adopt synergetic approach that align climate action, nature-based solutions, and urban development to deliver outcome greater than the sum of their parts. The call for the right-based approach, water governance, and integration, water focus, nature-based solution into our nationality determined contributions. We aim further leverage for the wrap-up partnership conditions platform to share real-time database practices, strengthening our national monitoring infrastructures through both reference great signals to satellite validation remains top priorities. We welcome the review implementation ministerial declaration on environment and development. Sri Lanka is eager contribute to the upcoming season for the Rio Convention, including the COP17 on biological diversity on Armenia and the COP31 climate change in Australia and Turkey. In conclusion, while the challenges are vast, our role is stronger by moving from the local regional management strategies. We can mitigate health and economic cost, environmental degradation. Sri Lanka stands ready to alongside all member states ensure a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment for all our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, Mr. Anton. Now I give the floor to Pakistan, followed by Indonesia, then Nepal.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, distinguished heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I wish to convey my sincere appreciation to the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific for convening the 9th session of the Committee on Environment and Development. This timely and important session brings us together to advance effective, inclusive, and sustainable multilateral responses to the interconnected challenges of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. Pakistan fully aligns with the priorities of this session and reaffirms its strong commitment to advancing the environmental dimension of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Excellencies, the Asia-Pacific region is at a defining crossroads. The climate crisis, biodiversity loss, and pollution are no longer a distant concern. These are immediate and lived realities. Across the region, communities are confronting escalating climate impacts, declining biodiversity, and worsening environmental degradation. Pakistan, in particular, remains among the countries most vulnerable to adverse impacts of climate change. The increasing frequency and intensity of floods, heat waves, and glacial lake outburst floods underscore the severity of this threat. Recent extreme weather events have resulted in significant human and economic losses, highlighting the urgent need for strengthened resilience, effective early warning systems, and climate-resilient infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan has adopted a proactive and integrated approach to respond to the environmental challenges. Under its third nationally determined contribution, Pakistan has committed to an ambitious 50% of economy-wide greenhouse gas emission reduction by 2035. Central to Pakistan's ecosystem restoration efforts is the Living Indus Initiative, a $17 billion restoration initiative for the water basin that sustains 90% of Pakistan's population and 80% of its arable land. Simultaneously, Pakistan is radically reshaping its energy matrix. As of recent assessments, low-carbon sources already account for approximately 64% of Pakistan's total electricity generation mix. This includes utility and net-metered solar power, which has experienced a historic surge in Pakistan. The solar power is booming alongside a robust hydropower infrastructure that generates nearly a quarter of Pakistan's national grid. Pakistan has also strengthened its early warning system and disaster risk reduction systems, particularly in high-risk areas. Additionally, the government is also promoting nature-based solutions, climate-smart agriculture, and sustainable water management to enhance local resilience and protect livelihoods. Pakistan has also made meaningful progress in biodiversity conservation, with more than 20% of its land area now under protection, alongside continued efforts to align national targets with global biodiversity frameworks. These initiatives reflect our commitment to safeguarding ecosystems while pursuing sustainable development. Excellencies, while national actions remain essential, the scale and urgency of these challenges require stronger regional cooperation and revitalized multilateralism. One key enabler of a collective action to combat climate crisis, biodiversity loss, and pollution is the mobilization sustainable finance for developing countries. Developing countries need predictable climate finance of at least $1.3 trillion annually for delivering on the climate commitments under Paris Agreement alone. Additionally, the Global South requires improved access to clean technology solutions and sustained capacity building support to effectively implement their commitments. Pakistan believes that ESCAP serves as a vital platform for fostering regional collaboration, sharing best practices, and mobilizing collective action. Pakistan remains committed to working closely with all member states and partners to advance inclusive and action-oriented solutions. Together, through strengthened partnerships and shared responsibility, we can transform today's challenges into opportunities for a more resilient, sustainable, and prosperous future for our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mixed Excellency Shezraf. Now I give the floor to Indonesia, then followed by Nepal, then Turkey. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Okay. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we appreciate the ESCAP Secretariat for a comprehensive report which provides a timely assessment of the environmental challenges facing our region. The Asia-Pacific region, as also the whole world, is confronted by a triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution that transcends national boundaries, and each of which is interconnected. As the clock is ticking and the crises are worsening, it is imperative for us to immediately address these challenges through strengthened regional cooperation. Our National Development Agency, or Bappenas, estimated that last year our economy suffered an environmental loss equivalent to $26 billion, more than 12% of our annual budget for that year. This loss is estimated to increase fourfold to more than $111 billion by 2029. Technical assessments published by the National Research and Innovation Agency, or BRIN, outlines severe baseline for vulnerabilities for Indonesian food security, noting that a temperature increase of 1 to 2.5 degrees Celsius paired with a 5% drop in rainfall can trigger up to 50% drop in rice production in highly sensitive regions. Meanwhile, combined climate and land use pressures are projected to drive an alarming 66% loss in national biodiversity by mid-century. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Indonesia believes that environmental protection and sustainable development should be mutually reinforcing as we continue to advance integrated approaches by restoring mangroves and peatlands, promoting circular and blue economy initiatives, strengthening sustainable water resource management, and enhancing community-based adaptation to climate change. These efforts are undertaken through collaboration among national and local governments, communities, academia, and the private sector. Indonesia would also like to highlight that regional cooperation is essential to address these environmental challenges. We welcome ESCAP's continued support in promoting nature-based solutions, strengthening the regional action program on air pollution, and facilitating knowledge exchange on sustainable water management. Regional platforms for data sharing, capacity building, technology cooperation, and policy dialogue will play an increasingly important role in supporting evidence-based decision-making and accelerating implementation. At the same time, Indonesia emphasizes that the successful implementation of integrated environmental policies requires adequate means of implementation. In this regard, we note that developing countries continue to face challenges in assessing affordable financing, appropriate technologies, and technical capacity. Strengthen international cooperation, including partnerships that mobilize public and private investment while respecting national priorities and circumstances, will therefore be critical. Chair, as the international community prepares for major environmental milestones in 2026, including the upcoming United Nations Water Conference and the conferences of the parties of the Rio Conventions, Indonesia remains committed to working with all partners to advance practical, inclusive, and synergistic solutions. By strengthening regional solidarity and embracing integrated approaches, we can build a more resilient, prosperous, and sustainable Asia-Pacific for present and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency Mr. Diaz Faisal. And now I give the floor to Nepal, followed by Turkey, and then Philippines. Nepal, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, on behalf of Government of Nepal, I extend my sincere appreciation to the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific for convening this important session and for its continued leadership in promoting regional cooperation on environment and sustainable development. Nepal is a least developed country preparing for graduation, as well as a landlocked and mountainous nation whose contribution to global greenhouse gas emission is negligible. Yet we are among the countries most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Rapid glacier retreat, the growing risk of glacial lakes, outburst floods, more frequent and intense extreme weather events, biodiversity loss, and increasing threats to water, food, and livelihood security continues to intensify. As home to Himalayas, the source of Asia's major freshwater system, these challenges have far-reaching implications not only for Nepal but also the downstream South Asian countries. Despite these vulnerabilities, Nepal remains firmly committed to achieving net zero emission by 2045, implementing the Sustainable Development Goals and fulfilling its commitment under the Paris Agreement and other international agreements. Our Constitution guarantees every citizen the fundamental rights to live in a clean and healthy environment, and we have integrated climate resilient, environmental sustainability, and inclusive development into policies and programs at all levels of government. The government's policy and programs for fiscal year 2026 to 2027 place environmental sustainability and development at the heart of Nepal's economic transformation. We are advancing a green economy through sustainable forest management, climate-smart agriculture, renewable energy, and the biodiversity conservation. We also urge strengthened international cooperation to secure preferential market access to environmentally sustainable byproducts from least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, mountainous developing countries, and small island developing states. Nepal strongly believes in nature-based solution. Our globally recognized community forestry program has increased forest cover from about 29% in 1980s to over 46% of the country's land area, while restoring ecosystem, enhancing carbon sequestration, conserving biodiversity, and improving rural livelihoods. At the same time, however, increasing human-wildlife conflict, particularly involving mega mammals, monkeys, and wild boars, is threatening agriculture, food security, and rural livelihoods. We look forward to listening from regional best practices and strengthening cooperation to address these emerging challenges. Excellencies, Nepal remains committed to strengthening regional cooperation on climate action, biodiversity conservation, disaster risk reduction, and sustainable mountain development. We reaffirm our commitment to implementing the Sagarmatha call for action adopted at the first Sagarmatha Samvad in Kathmandu in 2025, and to advancing global cooperation to mountain and cryosphere issues. We also call for greater international support to bridge the climate finance gap through predictable, accessible, and adequate financing, enhanced support for adaptation and addressing loss and damage, and improve access to technology transfer and capacity building. We encourage ESCAP to continue promoting integrated solutions that reduce emission, conserve biodiversity, create green jobs, strengthen resilience, and translate national commitment into meaningful action to local level. Let us work together with urgency, solidarity, and shared ambition to build a resilient, sustainable, and prosperous Asia-Pacific for present and future generations. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Now I give the floor to Turkey, followed by Philippines, and then China. Turkey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good morning. Addressing complex environmental challenges in an integrated manner will be critical for accelerating progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. Turkey, as the president of upcoming COP, has been working in close cooperation with Australia, president of negotiations, to ensure a successful outcome. Our overarching objective is to make this COP an implementation COP. We have recently announced the priorities of the COP Climate Action Agenda, through which we aim to accelerate implementation, support real economy transformation, and deliver tangible progress on the ground. The agenda seeks to address all pillars of the global climate regime in a balanced, integrated, and action-oriented manner. As the COP presidency, we prioritize Rio synergies within our climate action agenda and see considerable value in the implementation of the 3 Rio conventions, while fully respecting their distinct mandates and decision-making processes. We stand ready to work closely with all ESCAP members in the lead-up to COP and count on your active support to ensure a successful outcome. We look forward to welcoming you all to Antalya this November, and also appreciate your participation at the Leaders Summit of COP, which is in 11 to 12 November. Given the urgency of closing implementation gaps, particularly in developing countries, we aim also to strengthen practical cooperation that can help translate commitments into tangible outcomes on the ground. This is why Turkey, as the presidency, together with UNDP, has developed the Climate Implementation Bridge. We also note the Regional Program of Action places particular emphasis on circular economy and resource efficiency as practical tools for reducing pollution while contributing to climate action. Turkey's Zero Waste initiative under the leadership of First Lady, Her Excellency Emine Erdoğan, which has evolved into a globally recognized model and gained international recognition, demonstrates how circular economy policies can simultaneously reduce emissions, improve resource efficiency, and support sustainable development. Given that zero waste is among the priority areas of COP Climate Action Agenda, it offers a valuable practical experience for further regional cooperation. Mr. Chair, environmental protection and sustainable water utilization are indispensable for economic growth, social well-being, and climate resilience. While water issues cannot be considered in isolation from climate change, just to recall that transboundary water issues have been discussed at their own dedicated platforms, each shaped by their own mandate, methodology, and stakeholder configuration. To conclude, Mr. Chair, ESCAP with its diverse membership serves as a valuable platform. We encourage strengthened regional cooperation under ESCAP, and 3 outcome documents to be adopted at this committee hopefully will provide an important regional framework for strengthening practical cooperation. We look forward to supporting their effective implementation in the years ahead. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Excellency Julida, and thank you for keeping up on the time. Likewise, I again put a gentle reminder to keep on the time limit. So now I give the floor to Philippines, followed by China, then Thailand. Philippines, you have the floor.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Recognizing that interconnected environmental challenges concede to no national borders, the triple planetary crises of climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss demand a decisive response. As ASEAN Chair in 2026, the Philippines is taking the lead in developing the ASEAN Strategic Plan on the Environment, which will guide ASEAN cooperation on the environment for the next decade. It will accelerate regional action in addressing interconnected challenges such as climate change, biodiversity loss, and transboundary pollution, while advancing efforts toward sustainable consumption and production, building environmentally sustainable cities, and protecting coastal and marine environment, among others. Clean air is foundational to human and environmental health. The Philippines has invested in robust emission reduction measures, digital monitoring, and satellite data to track pollution sources and guide our interventions. The Philippines is advocating for an ASEAN Clean Air Financing Facility to mobilize investments in clean transport, renewable energy, and modernized air quality infrastructure across Southeast Asia. Working alongside ESCAP and ASEAN member states, the Philippines is supporting a blueprint that integrates satellite remote sensing, open source digital platforms, and real-time predictive networks to transform how the region monitors, communicates, and mitigates air quality risks. Equally urgent is providing access to safe and affordable water. The Philippines, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources of the Philippines is strengthening local water security by accelerating the rollout of low-cost water refilling stations in the most isolated villages, specifically in communities where potable water remains expensive and at times unreliable. In 2026, the Philippines Water Resources Management Office intends to deploy 49 additional water refilling stations, scale water filtration and desalination systems to 59 water-stressed villages, extend the service grids of remote communities in 13 water districts, and install spring water systems equipped with micro hydropower components in 11 sites to deliver simultaneous water and energy solutions. The Philippine government is on track to expand safe water access to an additional 440,000 beneficiaries across the country this year. Together with key environmental measures such as the Waste Treatment Technology Bill and the Blue Economy Bill, the Philippines is strengthening its policy framework for water resource governance through landmark legislations to establish a dedicated Department of Water Resources. The creation of the Department of Water Resources would unify and modernize the country's fragmented water governance system, which will improve water allocation systems, ensure a reliable supply of water for agriculture, industry, and urban centers, and shield communities from intensifying climate-related risks. The Philippines stands ready to deepen partnerships, share lessons learned, and collaborate on practical, evidence-based solutions. Through collective action and regional solidarity, we can fulfill our commitment to the sustainable goals to deliver clean air and a water-secure future for all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Excellency Millicent. Now I give the floor to China, followed by Thailand, and then Russian Federation. China, you have the floor.
Respected delegates, good morning, everyone. On behalf of China, I wish to express our gratitude to the Secretariat for its diligent work in convening this conference. For a long time, China has been deeply engaged in regional ecological and environmental cooperation, leveraging regional cooperation mechanisms, including the China-ASEAN Partnership, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, APEC, and the Asia Cooperation Dialogue, as well as multilateral platforms led by UN agencies. China has actively carried out exchanges and collaboration across multiple fields, such as climate change response, air pollution control, biodiversity conservation, water resource protection. Meanwhile, as an important partner of Pacific Island countries, the Chinese government has long strived to provide assistance and support within its capacity to help the region tackle climate change and the framework of South-South cooperation. China has also taken active steps to deliver international public goods and put forward new solutions for global environmental governance. In 2025, China announced a new round of nationally determined contributions. We also facilitated the historic adoption of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. And we continue to deepen bilateral and multilateral dialogues and exchanges to deliver robust support for sustainable development in developing countries along the Belt and Road routes. China advocates the vision of a community of life for man and nature. Green and sustainable development is also the shared aspiration of all Asia-Pacific economies. Next year will mark the 60th anniversary of the establishment of ESCAP. We stand ready to deepen mutually beneficial cooperation with all Asia-Pacific nations and contribute our strengths to building a clean and beautiful Asia-Pacific together. Thank you.
Thank you, China. Now I give the floor to Thailand, followed by the Russian Federation, and then Bangladesh. Thailand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Deputy Secretary. As we race toward 2030 horizon, our collective challenge is clear. We must move beyond reaffirming commitments. We must accelerate implementation and deliver tangible, lasting benefits for our people, communities, and the vital ecosystems across our region. Mr. Chair, the environmental crisis we face, climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution, water insecurity, and rapid urbanization do not exist in silos. They are deeply intertwined. To confront them effectively, we must champion integrated, science-based, and inclusive approaches. Achieving greater policy coherence is no longer optional. It is essential if we are to maximize synergies across climate action, biodiversity, pollution control, water management, food, and energy security. To this end, Thailand wishes to emphasize 3 strategic priorities for our region. First, we must forge stronger regional cooperation to tackle transboundary environmental challenges head-on. Issues such as transboundary air pollution, ecosystem degradation, and increasing pressure on shared natural resources recognize no borders. They demand coordinated, unified response catalyzed by enhanced data sharing, robust early warning systems, technical cooperation, and targeted capacity building. Second, we must urgently accelerate cooperation on sustainable water resource management. Thailand becomes the outcomes of the Asia-Pacific Regional Preparatory Meeting for the 2026 UN Water Conference, and we fully support actions to elevate water governance and advance SDG 6. Furthermore, our region must confront the growing threat of transboundary water pollution, which put our ecosystems, public health, livelihoods at risk. Building resilience and securing shared benefits will require us to enhance information sharing, coordinated monitoring, technical cooperation, and trust building among riparian countries will be essential to reducing transboundary impacts, strengthening resilience, and gathering shared benefits. Third, Thailand encouraged ESCAP to further strengthen its role as a platform for regional cooperation by facilitating policy dialogue, promoting the exchange of good practices, strengthening technical cooperation, and fostering partnerships that translate regional commitments into concrete results. As we move towards 2030, we must turn our commitments into action through stronger cooperation and effective implementation. Thailand remains committed to working closely with ESCAP, fellow member states, and partners to build a more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable Asia and the Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you, Thailand. Now I give the floor to Russian Federation, followed by Bangladesh, then Mongolia. Russia, you have the floor.
Уважаемый председатель, уважаемые делегаты, Российская Федерация остается приверженной принципам и решениям, закрепленным в Декларации министров о защите нашей планеты. Высоко оцениваем достигнутый прогресс и подчеркиваем системообразующую роль Комитета в организации конструктивного диалога, посвященного релевантным вопросам природоохранной политики и рационального использования природных ресурсов, как на региональном, так и субрегиональном уровнях. Российская Федерация уделяет особое внимание охране атмосферного воздуха. В рамках федерального проекта «Чистый воздух» запланировано поэтапное снижение выбросов опасных загрязняющих веществ в 2 раза в 41 городе-участнике проекта. Достичь этого результата планируется за счет модернизации промышленных предприятий, перевода отопления в частных домах с угля на более экологичное топливо, а также запуска общественного транспорта на электричестве и газомоторном топливе. В регионах непрерывно ведется мониторинг и контроль за состоянием воздуха. Загрязняющие вещества определяются с использованием стационарных постов и передвижных лабораторий. В 2026 году более 8 тысяч домовладений переходят на газовое центральное электрическое отопление. Уже около 6 тысяч семей из различных городов России, включая города восточной части страны, такие как Южно-Сахалинск, перешли на экологичное отопление. На начало 2026 года 440 из 625 запланированных экологических мероприятий подтвердили свою эффективность. Национальная система мониторинга загрязнения окружающей среды предназначена для решения следующих задач. Наблюдение за уровнем загрязнения по физическим, химическим и гидробиологическим показателям, обеспечение органов государственного управления, заинтересованных организаций и населения информацией об изменении уровня загрязнения, а также материалами для составления рекомендаций в области охраны окружающей среды. Среди основных видов наблюдений можно выделить наблюдение за загрязнением атмосферного воздуха, почв, поверхностных вод суши и морей, за трансграничным переносом загрязняющих веществ, за загрязнением в биосферных заповедниках, за химическим составом и кислотностью осадков, за фоновым загрязнением атмосферы, а также за радиоактивным загрязнением окружающей среды. В отношении водных ресурсов на национальном уровне реализуется федеральный проект «Вода России», направленный на снижение объемов сброса неочищенных сточных вод, а также улучшение экологического состояния водных объектов, в частности, озера Байкал. В 2025 году завершено 56 мероприятий по расчистке, что позволило создать комфортные условия проживания вблизи водных объектов для более чем 1 миллиона человек. В свою очередь, международное сотрудничество в водной сфере должно строиться на уважении государственного суверенитета над ресурсами, учете национальных приоритетов и взаимовыгодном партнерстве. Отмечаем важность инициированного Таджикистаном международного десятилетия действий «Вода для целей устойчивого развития», направленного на укрепление международного сотрудничества, обмен национальными знаниями и передовой практикой, а также содействие реализации усилий по достижению ЦУР-6. Считаем, что в ближайшие десятилетия проблематика водных ресурсов будет становиться все актуальнее. Внимание многосторонних структур к вопросам обеспеченности водными ресурсами необходимо для дальнейшего устойчивого развития человечества. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you, Russian Federation. And in the interest of time before closing for the lunch, I'll be taking 2 more statements, and with the grace from the interpreters. Thank you, interpreters, for kindly agreeing for this. So now I give the floor to Bangladesh, and then would be followed by Mongolia. Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Honorable Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to you all. Bangladesh welcomes ESCAP's review of the implementation of the 2022 Ministerial Declaration on protecting our planet through regional cooperation and solidarity in Asia and the Pacific. The review confirms that the region has made important progress, but also that implementation must now move faster, deeper, and in more integrated manner. The evidence is encouraging. Across Asia and the Pacific, 39 of 49 regional members have adopted carbon neutrality or net zero targets. Nature-based solutions are now reflected in the climate plans, national policies, or initiatives of 46 regional member states. The region has also advanced clean air cooperation, ocean-based climate action, sustainable urban development, and environmental information system. Distinguished delegates, Bangladesh has contributed actively to this regional agenda. We submitted our updated NDC 3 in 2025 and adopted the National Adaptation Plan for 2023 to 2050, identified 113 priority interventions for climate resilience. Over the last 5 years, our climate-relevant budget allocation increased by 47%. More than 1,000 projects have been implemented through Bangladesh Climate Change Trust Fund. Department of Environment now operates 31 continuous air quality monitoring systems. For sustainable water management, Bangladesh is responding through the Bangladesh Delta Plan 2100, the climate resilient wash, river management, and community-based disaster preparedness. For Bangladesh, a climate vulnerable delta, these challenges are not abstract, they direct affect our lives and livelihoods. We therefore call for a stronger regional cooperation on climate finance, technology transfer, harmonized data and MRV systems, and nature-based solution, sustainable cities, ocean and river basin protection, and public access to environmental information. Bangladesh stands ready to work with ESCAP and member states to transfer regional solidarity into practical, measurable, and people-centered action. I thank you all for kind attention.
Thank you, Bangladesh. And now I give the floor to Mongolia. Mongolia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates. Asia and the Pacific region is facing interconnected and intensifying environment and development challenges that are undermining progress towards the 2030 agenda. Climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution, resource constraints, and disaster risks are converging in ways that expose the limitations of fragmented and sectoral responses. In our view, the strategic task before this committee is therefore not only to review progress, but to move decisively toward a more coherent, integrated, and implementation-oriented model of regional cooperation. My delegation wishes to emphasize clean air as a priority area for stronger cooperation. ESCAP notes that approximately 92% of the population of Asia and the Pacific remains exposed to air pollution levels above World Health Organization guidelines, and that North and Central Asia faces a dual burden from wintertime fuel composition and wind-blown dust, including sand and dust storms. Mongolia therefore attaches particular importance to the Regional Action Program on Air Pollution as the region's first intergovernmental framework for clean air cooperation. We are pleased to recall with appreciation our cooperation with ESCAP to host a high-level forum on clean air in Asia and the Pacific in Ulaanbaatar in March 2023, which helped identify practical areas for cooperation on air quality management, data standards, capacity building, and partnerships. We would also like to underline the growing importance of water within the regional environment and development agenda. ESCAP's analysis shows that Asia and the Pacific is home to over 60% of the world's population, but only 36% of its freshwater resources, while progress on SDG 6 remains mixed and largely stagnant. We agree with the assessment that water should be treated as superconnector across climate, ecosystems, food systems, energy, cities, and human well-being. For this reason, Mongolia supports stronger regional cooperation on integrated water resource management, improved data and monitoring systems, and inclusive governance that engages local communities and stakeholders. The year 2026 is also a significant opportunity for Asia and the Pacific to demonstrate leadership in global environmental governance. Mongolia notes that ESCAP has identified this year as pivotal, including because ESCAP member states will host the conferences of the parties of the 3 Rio Conventions. In this regard, Mongolia looks forward to hosting the 70th session of the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification in Ulaanbaatar from August 17 to 28, 2026. With less than 46 days remaining, Mongolia is intensifying preparations in close cooperation with UNCCD Secretariat. We see this as an opportunity to reinforce regional and global action on land, water, resilience, and sustainable development. Mongolia stands ready to work constructively with all member states and with ESCAP in support of an ambitious ministerial declaration and an action-oriented regional program on advancing synergies for sustainable development. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mongolia. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we have reached the end of the allocated time for this morning meeting. We shall continue with statements under the agenda item 2 in the afternoon, after the introduction of the agenda item 3. And the chairing of the afternoon session will be done by my fellow minister from Fiji in the afternoon. So we will now break and reconvene this afternoon at 2 p.m. sharp for agenda item 3 on accelerating progress towards sustainable development through synergies, policies, and solutions. So may I now call on the Secretariat to make an announcement.
Thank you, Chair, and very good morning, actually afternoon, to all distinguished delegates. I'm pleased to announce that there's several side events happening now during the lunch break, and you can see now on the slides here the different side events, and these are open to all the participants, so please do join these events and engage in these activities. Then also for lunch, I just wish to inform all participants that in addition to the regular catering services, which are available at the International Cafeteria and the Coffee Corner Level 1 and the Rajapruk Lounge on the ground floor, there is also the CP Food Market Festival, which is especially brought in for the committee session, where very delicious and authentic Thai food and products are on offer. So please do visit the festival and the garden area on the ground floor and enjoy Thai culture. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat, and the meeting is adjourned. Enjoy the lunch.